السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Assalamu alaikum everyone who's joining in from all over Walsall and Wolverhampton. Jazakumullah again. Alhamdulillah, we are coming to the end of Ramadan. Just a few more days left. I hope and pray that everyone has gotten into some sort of routine by now. And just remember, everything that you're learning, everything that you've started, which is good during Ramadan, keep it in your mind and try to think how I can continue this after. Because as you know, after Ramadan, once quarantine finishes, inshallah, our lives will become very busy again. So make sure we're trying to really focus on the good things that we can do in this time. Use that time wisely and make use of it, because we don't know if we'll ever get this time again. So learn the good things and try to implement them after Ramadan, and continue in that manner, because this is the essence of Ramadan, is to remind us exactly what we're capable of, exactly what we can do in our life, and inshallah we'll be able to continue in that way. So again, Jazakallah everyone for joining in. Today, inshallah, we'll be covering another very interesting topic, something which everyone is involved in, parents, children, grandparents, and it's to do with the upbringing of children. And Khalifatul Masih Sani Razitullah Anhu has written a very interesting and very educational book known as Way of the Seekers. And in this book, there are many teachings of morals, but one of the main focuses of Huzur, Khalifa Sani Razitullah Anhu, is on children. And so this was a magnificent book, which was in fact a speech. And that speech was later converted into a book. And as you know, in those times, speeches would last for hours. And so this book consists of, I think, over 60 pages. So just imagine how long he stood for to deliver this discourse. So for everyone who's joining, I'm just explaining of what the topic will be today, and it will be on the moral training of children. So in this book, Khalifatul Masih Sani Razitullah Anhu has given 26 points of how you can fully give the right training to your children. And many of you may already know them, but it's always good to go over them. And along the way, along this journey of learning how to give more training to your children, we'll learn a few of the stories which Khalifa Sani Razitullah Anhu has told us about each point. So it's good to also learn and good to also refresh our memories. So one of the first things when a child is born, and all the parents will know about this, is giving Azan. Now the Holy Prophet ﷺ has laid down that the training should begin at birth. And don't think that, when your child is older, that's when I'll start giving him that training. He says, right from the beginning, we are instructed as soon as the child is ready, that anyone should give Azan and Takbeer first in the right ear and then Takbeer in the left ear. And as soon as the child is born, the first step towards its education is to proclaim Azan into its ears. The Azan is a reminder to the parents that they are responsible for the life of the newly born. The training of that life is now their responsibility. Just to add, a few years ago, I designed a few of these posters for Palma, for the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, which I'm part of as well. So I'm their Tarbiyat secretary. And so I designed these posters just to make it a little bit easier to read and digest that information. So Khalifa Sani has written a book, Way of the Seekers, which consists of 26 points of how you can morally train your children. He also says that nobody should think that this is just a piece of magic incantation. Both the words and the meaning of Azan find their way to the mind of the child. Moreover, it is a reminder to the parents that they are responsible for the life of the newly born. The training of that life is now their responsibility. It begins from birth. So this is very important. Right from the beginning, we just automatically get into it. We automatically want to take care of the child. So the first instruction is that, give that message of Azan, that this is Allah is the greatest, and these are literally the first words that we say into its ears. And come to prayer, come to success. So all the things that we know in Azan is being given to the child. So this is a very hidden message and beauty in delivering the Azan. In the second step, step 2, or point 2, Khalifa Sani Razitan has said that a child should be kept neat and tidy and should be properly cleaned after stools, after it's used the bathroom, or after you've changed its nappy. Medical research bears out that a child commits its first sin because it is dirty. Now, this is very interesting. One of the points which Khalifa Sani Razitan has said that mothers in particular who are looking after their kids should make sure that the child is cleaned. But the father is not exempt from this. In fact, the father has somewhat of even a bigger role. And Khalifa Sani says, some of you might say that this particular chore belongs to the mother. He says this is true, but it is equally true that the mother will perform it properly only if the father is properly orientated in this regard. And sometimes, because of culture, we think that the father shouldn't get involved in these things. But Khalifa Sani Razitan has made it very clear that it is both the mother and the father's responsibilities. For example, if the mother doesn't have the right equipment, if it doesn't have enough wipes, enough nappies, etc., how can she look after the child in the right way? So the father must be vigilant, must always know what's in the house, and try to help in whatever way they can. So this is something, a point to the fathers who are listening. Again, it is men's duty to bring home to women the fact that an unclean child will not have a clean mind. So again, another responsibility of a father is to continuously console the mother, and also keep telling her and the rest of the family or whoever's there that we must continuously keep them clean. As soon as we see any dirt, we should clean them, because through dirt, as Khalifa Sani has said, through dirt, a child can be susceptible to causing them to sin in their later life. How can you look after the inner cleanliness of the child if you do not look after its external cleanliness? Let the child have a clean body. So again, this is very important. We all know the famous saying of the Holy Prophet ﷺ that cleanliness is half of faith. So if we divide it here, half will be external and half will be internal. So to look after the internal qualities, internal morals, we must also look after the external cleanliness. And this also impacts the mind of the child. As a consequence, the child will come to have a clean mind and will become immune to sins which are caused by uncleanliness. So this training must begin from the very first day it is born. Number 3, a child should be fed at fixed hours. This will breed the habit of self-control. Just to explain this further, Huzura said regular food habits will further lead to the following good habits. The child would learn to be punctual, and this is something we can all relate to. As the child grows up, you start going to school, you know that it has fixed timings of what to do in each day. So when you wake up, you go to the bathroom, you have breakfast, you get ready for school, you go to school, you have all your lessons. So constantly the child's in a routine, and most of that is done because of the school. But in home, sometimes if we don't have fixed hours for praying, for eating, it can become a bit less professional in its life, and a bit less strict, and less discipline will be instilled in the child. So this again is another very important aspect of being breeding that self-control, that punctuality in your child. So one example which Khalifa Sani Razit has said, that if the child wants to have an edible which is lying about in the house, like sugarcane, radishes, carrots, or homemade sugar in farming families, tell him to wait till it is time for meals. This will fortify his self-control and enable him to exercise restraint. So again, that's very important. Don't just at any time, when the child wants food, give it food. Make sure it knows that at this time it's going to have food. And mothers instantly, through instinct, they know when the child is hungry, and etc. etc. So as a child's getting older, he's going to start realizing these things in your home. On the fourth point, Khalifa Sani has said that a child should be helped to form the habit of relieving nature at regular hours. This is very helpful for its health. The child who learns to perform its natural functions regularly readily forms the habits of praying and fasting. He learns not to delay performing national duties. The child curbs displays of ill temper and petulance. So again, this is something so important. Um, Instilling regular hours of relieving, of going to the bathroom. So this again, as we look at the bigger picture of what qualities will be instilled in the child. Khalifa Sanya said some Europeans can even tell the time by the movement of their bowels, for they learn to evacuate with clockwork punctuality. The main cause of such tantrums is irregularity, particularly irregularity in food habits. For instance, and he gives this example, the child is busy playing. We can all relate to this. The child is busy playing and the mother calls the child to come and eat. The child fails to come at the time where everyone else is eating at the table, because he was playing. And when the child comes, food is got cold, so the mother's saying, "Go eat your food and come eat now." Um, but by waiting for this, the child's going to become hungry and it's going to um, start becoming angry and furious, and this causes outbursts. So to avoid all this, to avoid a child getting into this habit of feeling hungry, of not knowing when the right time to eat is, we must be strict in these things. When food is ready, we must really tell them that now it's time to eat. Stop whatever you're doing, now it's time to eat, and make sure that they know that these are the fixed hours in the house. Food should be, number 5, food should be served according to a prescribed measure. This will teach the child contentment and discourage gluttony. Gluttony meaning greed, excessive eating. This is something very important. Just a side point, during the time of the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would always console, he was always teach etiquettes to the children, especially his grandchildren. So Hazrat Hassan, who was only 2.5 years old, um, whenever they would have a meal, he taught them this famous hadith that we all know. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, "Eat with your right hand and from that which is in front of you." So this is something very wise. And look, Hazrat Hassan was only 2.5 years old at that time. So this is something which we must be strict in, and we must teach our children from a very young age. Number 6, a child should be given a variety of foods. It should have meat, vegetables, and fruit. For dietary habits affect morals, and a variety of food is necessary for a variety of morals. It should have more vegetables than meat, as meat excites, and in childhood there should be as little excitement as possible. And any parent who has little children would understand this. Not just meat, but with sugar especially. And we as parents, we want our children to be as calm as possible. So what Khalifa Sani Rezitan has said, that um, give them different types of food, and more vegetables will help in that manner. Just one example, which from the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which how he taught, especially when it came to charity and when it came to teaching children. A basket of dates had arrived to be distributed among the poor. Hazrat Imam Hassan was very young at the time. He picked up a date and put it in his mouth. As soon as the Holy Prophet ﷺ noticed this, he put his finger in the child's mouth and pulled out the date. What he meant was a prophet's grandchild was not to eat what belonged to others, that he was supposed to make his own living when he grew up and not be a burden on others. So here there's two lessons in here. Teach the child to respect what is not theirs, and also, especially because it was in charity, that the child should never take from charity, no matter what it is, if it's sweets, if it's food, or anything. So in these small lessons, the Holy Prophet ﷺ was able to really mold and nurture his grandchildren. Number 7, as the child grows, it should be asked to do small tasks under the guise of play acting. It should be asked to fetch a utensil, to replace or carry an object, or other small tasks, but it should also have the time to play on its own. So when you're in your house and your nephew, your niece, your children, your grandchildren are there, make sure you keep them busy. For a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, you can tell them to, fetch such and such item, or to help you with the laundry, to even, if you want to tell them to throw something in the bin, for example, and they're capable of doing that. So the more the child grows, the more you can give him more tasks around the house. And this is also the cycle of life. When the child grows up, he's helping the mother more and more and more until he or she reaches old age. So this should be done right from the beginning. And children are all capable of some sort of job. And so this again is a very important task which parents should instill in their children. Number 8, a child should be allowed to acquire self-confidence as a matter of habit. If it wants to have an object which it has just seen, it should be told that it would get it at a certain time. Hiding the object is no solution, for it will imitate and try to hide things which will breed the habit of stealing. And so this again is something so important. We shouldn't hide things and let them see that we are hiding something, because children imitate very quickly, and it is incredible of the things that they do pick up, sometimes good and sometimes not so good. And so the parents should be very careful in front of them. So in this particular instant, don't always give the child what it wants, but tell it, if you do this, then I'll give you this. So that sense of reward will also help facilitate the child to understand that, you must do what you have to do first. You must eat, you must pray, you must read the Quran, and then you'll get this reward that you want right now. Number 9, a child should not be overindulged. Too much petting or caressing leads to many vices. When such a child sits in society, it expects to be fondled. This results in a number of moral evils. So again, as you know, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that no white person is better than a black person, no Arab is better than a non-Arab. And what we learn from this is that everyone is equal. And so this is exactly how we should treat our children, especially if we have more than one child. We should try to treat them all in the same way, but also not pamper them too much, not spoil them too much, not give them everything that they want. Because in the long run, when they become older, they will just continue this habit and think that, I can get whatever I want, and they will think they're better than other people. So again, you must be strict in this and try to manage it in a controlled way. Number 10, Khalifa Sani who said that parents should be capable of self-sacrifice. Foods which are prohibiting for an ailing child should neither be brought into the house, nor should they be eaten by the parents. The child should be told that they are abstaining on his account. The child will thus learn the habit of self-sacrifice. So like we've spoken already, a child imitates whatever the parent is doing. And so if the parents themselves, if their child is told that it can't have a certain food item, then they should try their best not to have that food item in front of them. If the doctor said to the child, stop eating chocolate because it's ruining your teeth, so for now abstain from it, then the parents should also have that self-sacrifice in them and tell the children, we are not eating because the doctor has said that you can't have chocolate. So you as well should have that courage and that strength inside of you to show him or to show her that we are also following this guidance of the doctor to make it easier for you. And slowly and steadily, the child will realize that, my parents are doing this for me, and so I will also continue this for other people as well. Number 11, extreme vigilance is required when a child is suffering from a chronic illness, or any illness in fact. Vices like cowardice, selfishness, lack of emotional control, etc., are the result of illness. So, for example, when someone does become ill, they become very agitated. They become very short-tempered. And so, what Khalifa Sani has said regarding this is that you should pay even more particular attention towards them. You should understand them and look after them, because if they see you doing that, then when they grow up, they'll do the same for other people, and they will show sympathy towards them. If you disregard them, if you do not give them the right medicine, if you just think, yeah, they'll be okay, we'll just pray and they'll be fine, that's not the way to deal with something like that. The more love you have for something, the more natural it is for you to take care of that person. So your actions will always inflict upon the children. Number 12, children should not be told tales of horror. This would make them cowards. If a child exhibits a tendency towards cowardice, it should be told stories of courage and made to play with children who are brave. Tell them useful stories to give them confidence. And there are many stories which you can tell them during the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and how courageous the Sahaba, and Huzur has been constantly telling us this in his Friday sermons. So these stories, it's always good to tell them good, beneficial stories, along with the children's stories that we have, which are usual for everyone else. But also try to teach them these Islamic stories, which will also increase their knowledge. So try to avoid telling horror stories, because this will, of course, make them scared in the future. Number 13, a child should not be allowed to choose his own friends. This choice should be made by the parents, and this is something very important. The parents should choose well-behaved children as associates for their children. And when you do this, it will almost cause a knock-on effect with all the parents. And all the parents would, firstly, they would try to make their child so good that it will be able to play with other children. And so that means they will be able to cooperate with one another. And so just like in our Jamaat in Walsall and in Wolverhampton, parents know each other. Everyone knows each other, and everyone knows each other's children. And we try to make our children all friends, because when they're together and they're friends, they would want to come to the mosque more. And this has been the case with the children pushing their parents, to go to masjid now, to go to namaz, because they know that their friends will be there. And alhamdulillah, that's why we always try to say that stick with Ahmadi friends when they're growing up, when they're going to school, because they are more likely to have those etiquettes that we are teaching at home. So this is why we should all try to teach the same etiquettes, and this is why it's good to go over how we should give moral training to each of our children. Moral training of children, number 14. A child should be assigned responsible jobs suited to its age. Games like football, etc., are useful exercise for this purpose. In sports too, we should be ever watchful lest the child picks up bad habits. So very interestingly, Khalifa Sani Razatlanho has mentioned football in particular, because with football, it's a team sport. And in team sports, you learn many different skills. You learn how to manage people of all different temperaments. Some will be less quiet, some will be very loud, some will be more angry. And so you manage each of these people in their positions, and you're trying to get the right result, and you're trying to win. And so when your child's in this environment, he will learn things very quickly, and he will see all these habits of them, and all those skills that they learn in sports, they can apply into later life, into the everyday life. But also Khalifa Sani has said that, but look at your children when they are playing. And if you see that they're out of control, then you should take them to the side and you should tell them. And this is not the way that you should play. You should not hit anyone. You should respect everyone who is playing. So assigning responsible jobs in that sense is very, very important. So one example which Khalifa Sani has given also is a father gave his son an apple, and he asked him, do you know how to split an apple in half? And so the child said no. He said, okay, when you split it in half, whoever splits it should take the smaller side, and whoever you're giving to should give to the bigger side. So the child very cleverly gives it to his brother. and for the brother to split, because he knew that he would get the biggest slice. And so with this, it actually shows that the child is selfish, because he hasn't understood the aspect of responsibility, the aspect of giving. And so if he did have that etiquette, he would have tried to find a way to cut the apple in his own way, so that he could give the bigger half to his brother. And so this is why giving responsibility, making the child know that you have to take care of something and look after something and put them before you, this is why that is so important. And number 15, moral training of children. Number 15, tell the child that she is a nice and good person. Do not curse a child, for when you curse, angels add, let it be like that, and like that the child becomes. And so this is why you should never curse, you should never say bad things to your children. You should always listen to them and try to teach them in the best way. Praising the child and teach it to be good. Another explanation of what it means of this hadith of the Holy Prophet, that when you curse, the angels say, let it be. This also means that angels are responsible for the consequences of actions. When you tell a child it is bad, it draws an imagery picture in which it figures itself out as bad and does in fact become bad. So when you are telling a child, you are this, you are that, eventually he will think, okay, my bad action is exactly what my parent is telling me, so I am bad. So I am not a good person. So I'm not a good person. So that's why you should continuously try to praise them, and don't say bad things to them. Say it in a better way. Everything can be said in a nice way. And remember, they are just children. They are much younger than us, and maybe they don't know exactly what they are doing, and they need that guidance. And we as parents should be that guidance for them, should be that those people who are teaching those etiquettes to them, and we are a constant role model for them. Number 16, a child should not be allowed to become stubborn. If the child persists in being stubborn, its attention should be diverted to something else. Later, the cause of its obstinate behavior should be traced and removed. So again, when a child is constantly saying, no, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, many times if you present something else, they will quickly divert their attention from that thing. And so, for example, if you're trying to feed your child and he doesn't want to eat, he says, I want to watch my cartoon, I want to watch something on the TV. Very quickly, you can distract him with a toy or something which he can manually do. And in that way, while they're distracted, you can feed them. So this is a trace that you can remove, and that is stubbornness, because stubbornness is something very dangerous, especially with ideology, with your thinking, and the way you have beliefs in your religion. And if the child grows up and is very fixated on a point and doesn't want to move away from that point, it becomes very difficult to bring them back. So everything starts from a young age, and that is the key. Number 17, slowly getting to 26, address a child politely and courteously, for a child is a great mimic. If you address it rudely, it will return the compliment in the same way. So again, just reiterating that children pick up things in very quickly, and you'll see that some children are so sharp that you won't understand where they got that from. And you ask your other half, where did he learn that from? Where did she learn that from? Who taught them that? So again, be very, very careful. Speak politely and gently so that they can also copy this behavior, and in that way you'll have a nice relationship with your children when they grow up. Do not lie to a child. Number 18, as you know, it is said that lying is the cause of all sins. It is the parents who teach a child the habit of lying. The mother does something in the child's presence but denies having done it when asked by the father. Thus, the child learns to lie. And just imagine this, the child is witnessing all of these things in the house, and sometimes we forget this, sometimes we ignore the child can actually pick up even these minute things in our daily life. So it's not specifically for mothers, this was just an example. Anyone in the household, anyone who the child has seen do something, and someone else coming and ask, have you done this, or did you break this, or did you eat this piece of food, and if they say no, the child will pick that up and slowly start to use the same answers. We see many videos online now that young children are so intelligent, and sometimes they can be very rude with their answers. Sometimes they can be very clever with their answers and trick their parents. And this is all learnt in the house. So you must be very vigilant in that respect as well. Number 19, safeguard the child against all intoxicants. Intoxicants such as drugs and smoking and all these other things that are related to that, these can damage the nerves of the child. Consequently, the child becomes a liar. Of all moral evils, lying is the worst. A child should be especially guarded against it. So one example around this isn't just to do with intoxicants, but lying in particular. So Khalifa Sani said, a sister of mine, when she was a child, used to relate a long dream every day. We would wonder how she could manage to have a dream every day. Later, the truth came out. What happened was that, to her mind, dreams meant the ideas and pictures that crossed her mind just before falling asleep. To a child, every image is real. Thus, gradually, it picks up this habit. A child should be helped to realize the difference between fact and fiction. A child can be saved from this habit if the nature and meaning of thinking can be brought home to it. So that's something which is very important. If you realize that your child is making things up, you should be told that, this is actually wasn't real. This dream you had wasn't real, and this is actually the reality. And so it is these small steps which you take in your early life with the child, which will impact it later on. Number 20, stop children playing in privacy. So again, this is very important. Sometimes we become oblivious to what they are actually doing. And when the child grows up, you realize this. You realize that, why is my child staying in their room the whole time? What is he actually doing? Why don't I know what he's doing? So when they're young, right from they're young, keep an eye on them, know exactly what they're doing, know exactly where they are going, when they are coming back, who they are with. All of these small details are so important, and you must not be relaxed in that sense. You must always be vigilant. You must always know everything that they're doing, especially when they're children, and that will breed honesty in them. So when they grow up, they won't have anything to hide against you. They won't have anything to keep against you, and they'll be like a transparent sheet of paper, and you'll know, of course, within the lines of privacy, what they are doing. Again, something very important, number 21, do not leave the child without clothes. So again, there should be no time where the child is clothless, except for when you're bathing them. Apart from that, as you know, we've already discussed in one of the question and answers about parda, about modesty, and how inner modesty is shown through our outer modesty, and that is all to do with our clothing. And so when you clothe the child, you are protecting him from all of these things. And when you see someone without clothes, you should tell them that this is not right. And so the child should know that, and the child should grow up knowing that, and know that he or she should cover him or herself in the right way. Number 22, teach them to admit their mistakes. For this the following methods would be found helpful. So Khalifa Saniya said, do not try to hide your own mistakes before a child. Be sympathetic when it commits a mistake. Let it feel that the mistake is a kind of loss it has suffered. To guard against the repetition of a mistake, if you want to reprimand a child, do not do it before others. Do it in privacy. So again, just to explain that, when a child makes a mistake, you should know that it was a mistake and it shouldn't be taken lightly. But again, the very important thing is that do not embarrass the child, do not scold the child. Everything can be done with understanding, and children are capable of understanding, no matter what their age is. So do it in the right manner, but don't use force, and you don't need to ever use force to teach a child that it's made a mistake. And that could be anything in the house, around the house. If it's broken anything, if it's said something bad to someone, we should sit them down and really explain to them And through this dialogue, you'll realize that they'll realize as well that this was a mistake that I have made, and I'm going to correct it and not do it in the future. Number 23, a child should be given a little money. This will teach it 3 virtues. The first will be charitable, 2, frugality, and 3, helping relatives. One example which Khalifa Sani has said, for instance, if the child has 3 coins, let the child purchase something edible with the first coin and share it with other children. With the second coin, let it buy a toy, and the third coin, the child should be asked to give to charity. So in all of these 3 things, there's the element of sharing. With the second coin, is teaching you that you can reward yourself with this, but whatever amount you have, always think of 2 other people. You can buy something, but you can share it. You can buy something, keep it for yourself, but also you can also give one to charity. And we've explained this as well of the wealth that we have. We talked about this in the financial sacrifice studies. The wealth that we have, always think of others and make Allah a partner in your relationship. So don't just think, okay, I'm going to keep this for me, keep this for my wife, keep this for my children, and that's it. Always look to an amount where you can give, as we have many ways of giving through the Jamaat, through Sadaqah, through Zakat. Always have that in mind as well. And every Ahmadi automatically has that. And we should also, the more you can give, the more the merrier. Number 24, almost coming to an end now. Sorry, I'm going a little bit over time, but just because there's 26 points, I wanted to cover all of them. And just for your own benefit, and we are recording this session, so anyone who wants to look over them again and just to be able to have them explained in front of you, it will be very good. Children should also be given common ownership of some property. For instance, they should be given a toy and they should be told that it belongs to all of them, that all should play with it and that no one should try to damage it. This would teach them to safeguard common property. And during the time of Khalifa Rabi Rahimullah, he always used to tell children to tell parents that you should try and get some sort of pet for their children from a young age, because this will actually instill that sense of responsibility, and it will teach them that they need to take care of something. And just through having a pet, they will teach, okay, the pet is born, the pet needs this much food at this certain amounts of time and this certain amount. They'll live with the pet. For instance, a fish, for example, and slowly the pet will come to the end of its life. It will pass away, and the child will go through all of these emotions and all of these attachments, which is so important in actual life. So this is why having ownership of something is very important. Number 25, a child should be given constant guidance in matters of etiquette. And we have spoken about this already, that parents are the role models of their children. Whatever the parent is doing, however they are reacting to their other half or to other members in the family or to the society, the child will imitate that. So anywhere you are in life with your child, teach it, this is the right way to do it, or I think this is the best way to do it, or this is what the Holy Prophet ﷺ has taught us, or this is what Mazur said in today's Friday sermon. Small things, just as the Holy Prophet ﷺ taught his 2.5-year-old grandchild, Hazrat Hassan, that eat with your right hand. So these small things will make a child realize that there is a certain way of doing everything, and you shouldn't break the laws of those things. And lastly, number 26, due heed should be paid to physical exercise and stamina of a child. Physical exercise would be helpful towards its moral education and progress in the world. And as you know, as they say, that a healthy body is a healthy mind. And so a child shouldn't be locked up in the house all day. You should take them out and let them breathe fresh air, let them run around, let them exercise. And this will only benefit you, both physically, because the child would use its energy. By the time you come home, they'll be tired and they'll want to go to sleep, which is good for us. And also, they'll be learning all of these skills through playing, through moving their muscles, and through really exercising and building themselves in that way. So these are just a few points, 26 points specifically on moral training of children. And just to finish off, in Huzur's book, Khalifa Sani's book, a child who possesses the following characteristics will be considered to be morally educated. So number one, it should be moral itself and be able to make others moral. So that's very important. It should be able to behave as required by the morals of the community, the Jamaat. And number three, it should have genuine love for God, and His love should reign supreme over other kinds of love. So these are the three main principles. After the child's acquired that those morals, it should be able to teach. It should be able to be a role model for other children. His morals should be in line with what the Jamaat teaches, and also above all things that it should understand its love for Allah the Almighty. So this was a presentation. I hope you all benefited from it, and maybe not now, but maybe later on in life you will look back and you will remember these points and you will try to instill these points in your children. So Jazakumullah jaza. This was the end of the presentation. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim innaka hamidun majid. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.